Good afternoon, good morning, everyone. Welcome to our wide world of webinars with GoAway. Here you can learn from the best in the industry, pick up insider tips and tricks, follow stories of proven and successful travel industry professionals, all while journeying into the exotic world of GoAway. Now, located at the crossroads of Asia, Africa, and Europe, Jordan rarely leaves a globetrotter unimpressed by its sights or unmoved by its people. Best known for its centerpiece, the archaeological site of Petra, the Middle Eastern nation is breathtaking in both its golden desert attractions, epic experiences, and open hospitality. So much so, it draws globetrotters back for second and even sometimes third visits. Jordan is home to more than 100,000 archaeological, religious, and tourist sites like Petra, the Dead Sea, Wadi Rum, and Jerash, and that's just to name but a few. Jordan is naturally rich in history and in culture. Now, I drove through Jordan as an expedition leader years and years ago, and I have a tertiary knowledge of this beautiful country. But it's always better to hear from true experts, and today we have one such expert, and I'd like to welcome Omar Banihani, Marketing Director from Visit Jordan, and he's going to talk us through all the rich history and culture that is Jordan. So, first of all, welcome, Omar. Appreciate your time
Thank you,
today.
David. Appreciate it.
As we just discussed off air, Omar is actually Jordanian by birth. So before we get into Jordan itself, you're going to give us a little bit about some information about yourself, Omar.
I was born and raised in Jordan, and I've been living in the U.S. for the past 20 years. I got my education here, and I actually got specialized in a master's degree from George Washington in tourism administration. So I love the industry. I love traveling, and I made a career out of it. So, and I've been with the Jordan Tourism Board for about 15 years.
15,
15
one
years.
five. So prior to that, were you involved in tourism in other Middle Eastern countries or any other
This
destinations?
was my first real job out of college.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay, Jordan the
Yeah.
whole way from birth to
Yes, all the
profession.
way.
Okay, so when you were a youth growing up in Jordan. Now, I only ask this because most people don't see their own countries from a tourist point of view, at least. Did you visit many of all the famous sites that most non-Jordanians or non-Middle Eastern people would be aware of, like Petra, etc.?
I did. So growing up, we did have a program through the school that would take us out to a lot of the archaeological sites in the country. It was part of learning about your heritage, your country, and the history
Right,
of the country, but also because the history in Jordan is related or is connected to the Roman Empire, the Greeks, the Nabateans and Petra, and so many more. And it was essential, right? But the other thing was, my parents come from the north, from a city called Irbid, where Qais is. And it's one of the capitalist cities from the Roman era. And I was able to see some of that and also spend time in the northern part of Jordan, visiting relatives and spending time at my grandparents' house. So that's
right.
really that was it. I never really delved really deep into that until I actually got this job with the tourism board, and that's when the whole world of history and archaeology and culture and food and all that came into my life.
Right. So from when you started working for Visit Jordan, I guess you learned a whole different side to your own country
Absolutely.
through
Yeah.
that job.
And a lot of reading as
Yeah, yeah,
well. I had to read a
yeah.
lot so I
Right.
could connect the dots, right? Because it's so rich, and so ancient. A lot of these places that you have to, if you're interested in that, in history and archaeology, then you get to delve deeper into that and then just connect all these places. And they become a lot more meaningful as you go through. Then
I'm
you know
sure.
these
Yeah.
stories behind the scenes. Yeah.
Excuse me. Right. So, for those who may not know, and we will throw up some imagery over what we're discussing today as well, where is Jordan located?
It is in the Middle East. Um,
Hmm.
we are in the middle. We're right next to Palestinian territories. We're very close to Egypt. We border with Saudi Arabia, Syria, and Iraq in the Middle East.
Right. So it's as you mentioned the neighbours. You don't share a border with Lebanon, though,
We
do
do
you?
not know, but Lebanon's very,
You do,
very
right?
close.
Okay,
Yeah,
but you do share the Dead Sea with Israel
we
as
do.
well. So,
Yes.
yep, and also further south you have the Red, not Dead, Red
Mm.
Sea, which is a. It's only you've only got a very short coastline on the Red Sea, but it's a very popular spot, I assume, for locals, but as well for globetrotters to go for some beach time diving, etc. Is that
Yeah, yeah.
correct?
The diving in Aqaba is actually amazing. I personally don't dive myself, but I snorkel and I absolutely love it. I think it's fantastic. The coral reef out there is amazing. So for those that love to do diving, or it's actually well known in that circle of experienced divers. This is one of the places. It's the Gulf of Aqaba on that area of the
Yeah.
Red Sea that is absolutely gorgeous. You have many other activities you can do it down in Aqaba, and we have, as you said, but it's small. It's about 30 kilometers, I believe, we have on the water, but
Hmm.
yeah, most of it is for leisure. We have public beaches as well as a lot of hotels and private beaches and so forth. But it's a lovely, relaxed town, fisherman's town that turned into, you know, sun and fun and water activities.
Right. Now, on the again, we are going to bounce around all the different spots in Jordan, but since we're talking about the Red Sea, um, Jordan, being a Middle Eastern country, obviously excluding Israel, is a predominantly, well, is a Muslim country, correct?
Yes.
But it's one of the more, I guess, progressive. I don't know that's for the right word. Again, I'm not sure how to express it politically correctly here, but I guess what I'm getting to is when you're in Jordan, it's not as strict, for want of a better term, compared to maybe some other Muslim countries, particularly on the Red Sea, where like if my point is if people are going to Jordan and the Red
Mhm.
Sea, like wearing swimming costumes and bathers and bikinis and stuff is all
Is
fine.
Yeah. Well, let
Yeah,
me maybe help you articulate that.
yeah, yeah.
In
Please.
Jordan, so about 7% of the population is actually Christian in Jordan.
Hmm.
People ask us where they came from, and we tell them that's how you all know about Christianity.
Right,
It's an ancient place, right? And making wine in Jordan dates back to over 5,000 years. So it's not something, there's culture and then there's also religion. I think the culture is what we really need to focus on when you're looking at a destination. And the
right,
culture in Jordan is very open-minded. It's You want to be conservative, you can be. You don't want to be conservative, you can also be, and no one is there to judge
right,
you. Um, and yeah, absolutely. And you'll see Jordanians going around to the beach at the Dead Sea or at the Red Sea. Some not going in the water, maybe more conservative, and some that are going in and wearing a two-piece bikini. Yes, that is
right.
absolutely fine. So it's not a culture of judgment; it's a culture of understanding, and I think that's what makes Jordan very
Nice.
unique. And yeah, you feel free. I have a very good friend of mine that just I helped him out put a Jordan tour together for himself and his wife for their honeymoon. And they're seasoned travelers, but they still came in with some questions. I told them, you
Yeah,
live
yeah,
in Los Angeles, whatever you wear there, you can wear in Jordan at any time. That just makes,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, that just makes, puts your mind at ease and just makes you feel comfortable. And that's really what it is. And Jordanians are used to having travelers coming in. We get millions of travelers a year. So, people have to understand that this is a country that completely understands the world and is very well connected to the international cultures that come in and visit.
Yeah. And again, but, my experience with driving through Jordan many years ago was exactly that. So, but I just wanted to clarify, and you did articulate it much better than I did
Thank you.
on on the vibe of Jordan, and it is somewhat different, I think, to
Yeah.
some of the other neighboring Middle Eastern countries. So, getting to Jordan, what's the main gateway in, and what would be the main airlines for people flying out of Canada or the US?
So if you're flying from, I'm just going to talk about both U.S. and Canada
Yeah,
together.
please do.
The Royal Jordanian Airlines flies direct, nonstop from Detroit, Chicago, and New York, and
Hmm.
those are wonderful. You get on that flight and you go. They're also One World, so you can use your miles with American Airlines if that's the airline you use. And Royal Jordanian also flies out of Montreal and Toronto in Canada, and you can get on that
Okay.
flight as well. But also recently, last year, there was a new addition by United Airlines. They have a nonstop out of Washington D.C. Dulles Airport, nonstop service as well to Jordan. So if you're One World or Star Alliance, you could make your way over
You've got a
there.
choice.
And of course, you can connect through Europe or through the Middle East on like Emirates and Etihad, Qatar, Lufthansa, British Airways,
Air, Air
Air
Canada for our
Canada.
Canadian
Yeah,
listeners. Yeah,
it's yeah
yeah,
the whole yeah. So it's easy to get to Jordan, but I wanted to highlight the ones that are direct nonstop that could be
sure.
very
Yeah,
helpful.
and the main gateway in is
Amman
Iran.
Airport, yeah,
Yeah,
AMM. It's a wonderful, great airport, great experience coming in. Very easy to get through. Yeah, it's state of the art airport. It's not brand new, but it's I think about 10 years old, not even.
that's
It's
pretty good.
yeah,
Yeah,
but it's really nice. They've won great awards on how well run that airport is. Much better than a lot of the ones I fly through.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I can. Yeah, I can relate to that. Are visas needed for US or Canadian passport
Everybody
holders?
coming in needs a visa, but you get your visa upon arrival. And then
Okay.
also recently they introduced the e-visa, so you can also obtain it by submitting information online beforehand. So you're pre-approved for a visa. It's just that you need to make the
Yeah.
payment for it,
Okay.
and it's 40
Now,
Jordanian dinars, about I want to say $60 to $65 to get in.
okay. Okay, fine. Now, like most Middle Eastern countries, at least when talking to an American or a Canadian or Australian as myself from our homelands, big countries, Jordan is somewhat smaller
Very,
than people in Canada, the US will be used to. Um, I think from memory, you can literally drive it. If you wanted to go nonstop, you could drive north to south in a day, and therefore east to west also probably half a day. Is that
yeah,
close to correct?
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're driving nonstop from north to south, it's about six
Yeah.
hours. That's it across the
Yeah. There
entire
you go. Yeah.
country. Yeah.
Yeah, so many people here in Canada and the US that takes 6 hours is maybe getting across the
Yeah,
state.
but it's very drastic changing as you go
Yeah,
through because you go from lush forests in the north in Ashloon and Jerash to arid desert in Wadi Rum. You go through the Dead Sea and then you get to the Red Sea at the end of it. And just the terrain, the change of the terrain is just absolutely spectacular.
yeah. Again, I do remember it's exactly that. It's amazing how it does change from north to south.
Right.
From because a lot of people's who may have not traveled there not interpretation first thought process
Yeah.
of the Middle East is desert everywhere, which there's a lot of it, but it's not entirely desert, as you say. There's lush forests. I was just doing some training on Israel the other day. I didn't realize they had a very healthy
Yeah.
wildlife areas in the north as well. And actually, on that note, is Jordan known for any of
Yeah.
wildlife?
We have seven nature reserves in Jordan.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah, and well, one of them is actually Wadi Rum. It's a protected nature reserve.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
and is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site too. It's
That
fascinating
I
the
know. Yeah.
things that we
Okay.
have, but nature is absolutely great in Jordan. Um, I think the most exciting part that for me personally is the East Desert, and there is Shomeri Reserve and the Azraq Biosphere, or the sorry Azraq Wetland Reserve. These are very different in Jordan. First of all, there are a few really nice wild animals that exist there. One to highlight is the the oryx. It's Arabian
Yeah.
gazelle or
Okay.
Arabian. It's only in Arabia it exists. It's a beautiful animal, and also the Nubian ibex. We have some wild ones as well. It's a protected area. You can go on safari. Don't expect Africa style safaris, but you have safari opportunities, and you also have the wetland reserve is absolutely gorgeous. You won't really you won't expect it driving over there because it's very arid and desert on the way. We usually tell people to go there as you're driving through. You see the desert castles in the the eastern desert area, and then when you get there, it's a wetland reserve, just wetlands, fish,
Really?
water buffaloes, and then migratory birds that are going north and then south in the different seasons. Going,
Okay. So hang on, just before you go on, I've got a map. I've got
yeah,
a Google map in front of me of Jordan. So you're talking. So if I'm looking at Amman, we're talking east of
east of Amman, about
Amman.
a
Is it in the
2 hour, yeah,
northeast?
about northeast, yeah. So you're driving about 2 hours,
Okay.
and
Wetland.
yeah,
Wow.
wetland reserve. It's absolutely gorgeous, really well preserved as well, really well maintained. Great staff and great rangers out there, and really nice activities. But I think one of the most important pieces about that is the bird watching, some of the best you can ever see, because
Okay. See, again, I've never thought of Jordan as a bird watching
it is
destination.
absolutely, yeah, it is. And
Yeah.
what's nice about it is that it's that wetland reserve is that one spot as a watering hole and also as a place for them to feed. And so these birds are there when they migrate north and south in the different seasons, going to Europe or going down to Africa, and that's where they
That's one
stop.
of their
So yeah, on
stops.
the way they stop over there, and it's really spectacular to see all that.
Is there any accommodation in that area? So,
There's
like, can you go out
There is
overnight or
one,
spend
yeah,
some night?
there is one, the Azrak Lodge, and I think it's also run by the Royal Society for the Conservation of Nature. And it's not, don't expect super luxury, but it's a really nice property, and it's just across the street from the reserve. So, and you're close to both the Shomari and the Azrak Reserve, and you're out in the middle of them and you can go see both of them, something that not a lot of travelers actually see, but one of my favorite things. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous out there.
So that would be a good day tour from, say, Amman.
Absolutely, I would recommend that
Yeah.
you visit the desert castles as well on the way there. These castles were built a long time ago.
Are these Crusader castles
No, no,
or
no.
other or
So no,
predate?
these were during the Arabian era where the caliphs used to live in that area, and what they did is they
Okay.
built those because it's warm there during the winter, and then also for leisure and hunting. So that's why they use them, and they have one of them is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's called Qasr Amra, and it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site as well. Lovely frescoes in there, still well preserved for people to go and
Okay.
see,
Cool.
amongst many others as well in that area.
Right. Okay. So just you just touched on there that the police used that area for warmness in the winter. So what are our weather swings for Jordan, and when's the best time to go? That type of stuff.
I would say Jordan is a year-round destination. It just depends on what you enjoy, what you like, what you're comfortable with. In the summer, so let me start in yeah let me start in the spring. Spring in Jordan starts early. About early to mid February is where spring starts. And then from there until about mid May, it's absolutely lovely. No humidity, sunshine. It's great. And then when you start getting into June, July, August, it gets hot, but it's dry heat. So if you're thinking, if if viewers have been to Arizona, it's similar to that. So there's no humidity. As long as you're in the shade or you're covered, got SPF on, you're good to go and
Yeah.
drinking
Yeah.
water. So I don't mind. I go in the summers and I absolutely love it there. Uh, And in the fall, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's similar to spring, but not as green and lush, because they just went through the dry season, which is the summer. And then after the fall, when the winter starts, so our winter is mild. However, it does get cold at night, and but you're to expect sunshine, a lot of sunshine, even in the winter. 300 over
What's
300 days of
cold?
sun in the year, so it'll
Okay.
get a lot of
So what's cold though?
what.
What's the temperature when you say cold?
I want to say so. It would be uh, in, let's say, December, January, the coldest months. It would be probably Celsius or Fahrenheit.
Both, if you can.
I'm more familiar with the Fahrenheit. So about, I think it would
Yeah.
be 50s in the day, and then maybe mid 30s to mid 40s at night for Fahrenheit. I think.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in Celsius, it could go down to zero, maybe one below zero at, like, really extreme
Yeah.
cold. But
Yeah.
usually,
So I just punch into Google, like, yeah, if it hits 30, it's going to be about -1. So your 50s are in the sort of
yeah. So that's so it's so
tens,
it's it's
tens.
it's
Yeah.
cold, but
It's
yeah,
chilly. Yeah. Chilly. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
gets cold, but it doesn't last long. Winters are not
Right.
that long,
Okay.
so. But
Okay. So, um, as we mentioned, well, as I mentioned in the intro, like, Jordan's the crossroad of history, and you've already mentioned that there's a high proportion of Christians within Jordan, Muslims as well, naturally. Um, so there is a lot of Christian history. Jordan is also grouped with Israel as the Holy Land as well. So there are a lot of religious sites as well as Christian sites. And I did refer to the Crusader castles that are dotted all over. Karak, I think, would be the most famous in Jordan.
Carrick, yeah, that's
Yeah,
the most famous Crusader castle. Yes.
yeah, and that's sort of mid country. So why don't we work sort of north to south, and let's have you go through the big highlights of Jordan and what people can see. And again, as we mentioned before, it's a small country, so most of these places would be connected by road. Um, if someone was literally just wanting to do, say, Amman, Jerash, the Dead Sea, Madaba, which we'll touch on in a minute, and then wanted to fly all the way down to the Red Sea, would they fly or would they
You can
drive?
fly, but I mean, it's if you don't mind the drive, it's not bad. The way it works is, um, you're in the north, right? You'll be in Amman. Uh, you would stay there for a night, 2 or 3 nights, depending on how much time you have.
Hmm.
And during that time, you would experience some things in Amman at night, but during the day, you're doing excursions. So you'll go to places like the desert castles, like we mentioned earlier. Maybe have a chance to stay overnight if you want in Azraq. Come back to Amman and then go to the north and see places like Ajlun Castle, Jerash, and Qais. These are Roman history, primarily Greek and Roman, Greco-Roman cities. That's what we call them.
Hmm.
And then and then you do Amman as well. You need to give it its fair share. It's got great museums and amazing cuisine and great nightlife, and it's just absolutely amazing. It's a great city. And then so you're spending 2 to 3 nights in a hotel in Amman and doing these excursions during the day. But then on your way south, because there's so much to see on the way, you were never gonna
Yeah,
feel the need to fly, because then you're flying over all these amazing places that you could be visiting. So you
yeah,
would want
exactly.
to then, when you're venturing down south, you could visit places like Madaba, and Mount Nebo, and see where Moses once stood and saw the Holy Land, and
Saw the Holy
yeah, and
Land.
then go to Madaba and see. It's also known as the city of mosaics. There's countless mosaic art that you can see there
Yeah, it has the famous one of a
of
map
the
of the
Holy
Holy
Land.
Land.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Yeah,
amazing, and that is just one out of so many that you can go see.
yeah,
You can even see and experience how they used to make it back in the day in the Byzantine era. And then after that, you want to venture down to maybe see Karak, see the Crusader Castle. Even Shobak is another castle as well you can see, and then make your way to Petra.
yep,
Then that way, from Amman down to Petra, if you're driving nonstop, it's about 3 hours. You're stopping in Madaba and stopping in Mount Nebo and stopping
Yeah, yeah,
in Karak, so you're not on the you're not on the road for that long. You'd be an hour, hour and a
yeah.
half
See, yeah,
max at each time, and then from Petra to Aqaba and Wadi Rum is about an hour and a half to 2 hours. So you really don't need to fly unless you're in Amman and you want to go
exactly.
straight
Yeah,
to Aqaba. That's like a good 25 or 30-minute flight. That's it.
yeah. So again, I think yeah, I knew that myself. I was just trying to, I guess, for our listening audience, prove the
Yeah,
point that well, I'm people who know me through my webinars and stuff know that I was an ex overland driver, so I love driving everywhere. But my memories of driving through well the Middle East in general, but Jordan in particular was amazing for all the reasons you brought up. It's just it is a small country comparatively speaking, and almost everywhere you turn, there is something amazing to see.
absolutely.
Be it religious, be it historical, be it cultural, be it adventure, be it fun. Um, yeah, it's there's a lot packed into a very small country. Um, so, from the Dead Sea point of view, I've been lucky enough to swim in it from both sides, Israel and Jordan. Now, again, I was there many years ago. It wasn't from memory, and my memory's not that great, that well developed at the time. But I understand the Jordanian side, particularly, has quite a few more, I would, if not resort spa offerings, etc., up and down the Dead Sea. Is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. People have to think about it this way. When you're in Amman driving down to the Dead Sea, it's maximum of 40 to 45-minute drive maximum.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So the Dead Sea is our body of water because we don't have a river, we don't have a lake, we're not on the water as a main, as a big city. So our way to be on the water is going down to the Dead Sea. So so it's very well developed. Maybe that's
Okay.
what if you're comparing, that's maybe the reason
Yes.
because we don't have access to the water. And
Right.
what's
Okay.
nice about
Okay.
it is that it's always 10 degrees higher at the Dead Sea. So in the winter, it's always warm down there.
Oh,
So, and
really?
it's a good 45-minute drive and you're down there. So the reason why it's been really well developed. So we have a lot of hotels, some of the best spas in the entire Near East region are actually at the Dead Sea in Jordan. Wonderful
Okay.
hotels. We have a great convention center that's also on the water at the Dead Sea. So it's a very well developed area. There's a mall out there. There are some development.
Oh,
Yeah,
really?
it's a beautiful
Wow.
area.
Okay.
And but most people when you go and you're in your hotel, that's where you're staying. So you're not really venturing out, but you have some services around, and it's amazing. The Dead Sea is a must when you're in Jordan, and the experience you get
Of
there
course. Yeah.
is really
So it sounds like, particularly the Dead Sea, is quite popular with domestic
domestic,
tourism.
yes, and also
Yeah.
international, and we have plenty of rooms out there, so it's a big product for Jordan.
So on that point, accommodation levels throughout Jordan, obviously they run anywhere from sort of hostel, backpacker, all the way up to 5-star luxury. So um, Petra's probably the hardest area to get rooms because it's so popular. But in general, room nights are not an issue. Generally speaking, when someone's looking at
Uh,
booking their time in
Generally
Jordan.
speaking, no. Petra would be maybe the one that in during high season you might, if you have a group of 20 people coming in, and you're doing
Sure.
it last minute, you might not find rooms. But in Amman, there's plenty of hotels,
Yeah.
and as you said, everything from 2-star to 5-star deluxe. Um,
Now, are they still playing uh, Indiana Jones: The Last Crusade videos in all the hotels around Petra? That's what I remember. Everywhere
how
you go,
long ago
that
did
that
you
that
go?
movie. A long time
Okay,
ago.
yeah,
A
no,
long
that's
time
not
ago.
the vibe
Yeah, yeah.
anymore.
Oh, okay. Good. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
but you
yeah. It
have
was a long time ago.
you could still find the Indiana Jones hat and the whip at
Right.
the gift
Okay.
shop. You can still find that.
Yeah. And again, for those who may not know the reference there, the last couple of scenes of the Last Crusade movie is based in Petra. It's actually deceiving too because they walk into the library, this ruins, very famous ruins that almost anyone who knows Petra will know, and it based in the movie suggests that they go into this huge labyrinth, but that's not the case. It's actually rather small. What I didn't know when I first got there, though, was because I knew of Petra, the library, the famous ruins, but basically, if you turn right and follow the pathway, there's a city there, like an
Entire city.
enormous city which I had no idea about until I got there for my first visit. So, you want to expand a bit on Petra as it's one of the focal points
Yeah.
for visits,
So
Jordan?
well, it's so that the main building that is what people know of Petra is actually called the Treasury. The
Oh, Treasury.
Treasury.
Sorry, not library. My bad. Yeah,
No
sorry, my bad.
problem. But that's a tomb. Just so people understand, it's a royal tomb. So nobody lived in that. There's a and what's inside? People are like ask me. It's just a giant room. You can still see the chisel
Giant room. Yeah,
marks
I remember
inside.
that.
It's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But it's a royal tomb. So that's one out of over 400 that exist in that area. And
yeah.
Petra, everything you can see in Petra, which you need 2 to 3 days to actually get to see the entire city. And the experts estimate that we've only uncovered about 40% of that city. So
Oh,
what we
really?
actually see today is about 40% of what it actually used to look like. And there are archaeologists digging in Petra nonstop for the last, I want to say, 30 years. So there's always something being uncovered or
New being
being
discovered.
discovered, and also a lot of a lot of work on putting meaning towards these buildings, or finding a road. I remember one year I went a long time ago, and I was walking on this path, and then 2 years later I walked through down that path, and I was walking on Roman pavement, and then there were columns,
Yeah,
and I'm like, where did this come from? Like, oh yeah, we found it.
yeah, yeah.
I'm like, okay.
We found
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
so it's not, and to your point, experts they estimate about 30,000 people lived in that city at its peak. So that's one thing to remember. Many of the homes that people used to live in are actually destroyed. However, you could see a pile of symmetrically looking rocks that are on the hillside as you're walking through. These were buildings where people lived, or they worshipped, or
right.
they trade. And Petra primarily was or what it actually relied on was trade. So they were on the main ancient trade route, and traders would stop and they would do commerce there, but also have protection, water, and food, and entertainment, and all
Yeah,
that. So that
because
was a
it,
it was a hub for trade in the ancient.
right, and from memory, it was as a set of ruins or a city of ruins. It was discovered later in like history as such because of where it's located, sort of hidden in this. Is it a valley or is it
It
sort of just
was it
because
was
you got
rediscovered. That's I think it was
rediscovered? Okay,
rediscovered, right? So it was mentioned in a lot of literature throughout history as Petra, but it was lost for millennia, and then it was
hmm
rediscovered. There was I can't remember his last name. Eckhart. No, I can't remember his name, but he's a Swiss explorer that learned about it and went around looking for it, and then found a local Bedouin tribe that lived there, and they were protecting it. So, but he worked with them, and then they decided to show him what they have. And they're like, "Well, let's show you what we have, where we live." And then they showed him, and then he drew it and took it back with him, and it was in 1812. So about over
okay,
200 years now. But then ever since then more explorers started coming in, and then people started coming and visiting. Um,
yeah, because the entrance is that famed walkway through the
and
canyon,
that is exactly it.
and
That was one of the reasons why it was built in that valley, is because it's naturally protected by these mountains that it
yeah,
surrounds the city, and there is a narrow gorge called the Seek that is the only way you can get into the city.
get
So
into
we
the
were
city.
protected.
Yeah,
So that's why, yeah, and it was protected also from outsiders coming in and seeing it after the demise of the city.
yeah.
But yes.
Now I understand too. Um, at night, there's a is it a light show that happens near the
Yeah, there's
treasury?
something called Petra by Night, and what you do
hmm
is you go in. It's a guided tour. You go in with many people, but I want to say about 200 maximum, and you go into the to Petra. You walk down the natural gorge that takes you to the treasury, the main building, and back. And then there is a little bit of a music, old music like a flute and another instrument as well, and you're in front of the treasury, and it's lit by candles along the way, and then also candles right in front of the treasury. So it's really a nice experience. It's only I think Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
Okay.
that it actually runs, and it's run by a local company down in
Oh,
Petra.
really?
Yeah,
Okay, nice.
they've contracted with the authority there to do it, and they do a great job.
Okay, excellent. Okay, so just working a little bit further south of Petra, I believe it is, or near Petra, is Wadi Rum, probably one of the most famous areas in Jordan.
Southeast, yeah,
Just
yeah,
sorry,
southeast of
yeah, or
Petra.
south, yes, sorry, south. So just from a language point of view, what is a wadi? Just so people understand what that is.
Wadi is valley. So Wadi in Arabic is valley in English, and Wadi Rum basically translates to the Valley of Rum. That's what it is. And I do have a
Right.
T-shirt that says Wadi Rum and Coke on it. That I thought was pretty funny, and it is just
Right.
RUM, just like the drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So I know that when we were driving through there as overlanders at the time, I don't believe it's allowed anymore, at least not unless it's an organised tour. We were able to drive through Wadi Rum in our vehicles. We sort of went off road and drove from Petra through Wadi Rum. We camped overnight and then headed down to Aqaba. And that's probably one of my most stunning memories I've ever had from a driving point of view, from just going into the wilderness point of view. Another one was up in Syria,
Yeah.
in the desert as well. But it was just amazing. And at the time, we saw Bedouin, which are the local indigenous population of the region, because they're not necessarily Jordanian or Syrian, they're desert people. Is that correct?
In Jordan, when you're out
In
in Wadi Rum, these are Jordanian people that live in the
Oh, they're okay.
they happen to be Bedouins, right? A lot of the
Yeah,
original Jordanians, they're Bedouins. They used to, move where there's food and water, take
exactly. Yeah,
their things and their cattle and all their belongings and move over to an area where they can settle in for a little bit. So that's part of the culture. It's a harsh landscape. It's not easy living. That was the way a lot of the Arabs lived in the let's call it Arabian desert, right? Because there was no
right.
countries back in the day.
That's what I was referring to before about Bedouins not being
Absolutely.
Jordanian necessarily. Yeah,
Yeah, so they're Arabian tribes, right? And
yeah,
but here you're going back, right? So these are hundreds of years ago, if not thousands, and a lot of them are related. So it's really these borders that we have today are there for reasons we're not going to discuss today. But it's just when you're looking at the entire region, it's got a lot of similarities. But one of the things,
yeah.
one of the interesting things that I've discovered after reading a lot and talking to a lot of friends and colleagues is that the Jordanian hospitality, everybody is always talking about, oh, the Bedouin hospitality, the Jordanian hospitality. And I tell them, okay, it's really nice, and also can be a little odd. When I moved to the U.S., I thought that it's normal in Jordan to see somebody that you don't know and they're asking you questions and saying, "How do I?" It's normal to tell them, "How about you come in for coffee or for tea, or join us for lunch? We made
Hmm.
this delicious dish and come and eat with us." It's a normal thing in Jordan. It's not in the U.S. When I moved here 20 years ago,
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, that's not how things go. But the reason why it was back in the day when you were Bedouin tribes, you had to have these codes and ethics where if somebody comes in, you have to give them food, place to stay, water, coffee, keep them company. It was because of the harsh living conditions where you needed that. So you provide it for somebody, but then somebody will be providing it to you if you ever need it in the future. So it's a
Yeah.
community exercise that now translates into today's Jordanians that don't live, they live in nice big homes and they live in big cities, but they still carry some of those things with them.
The
Yeah, and I
hospitality
think the
still extends.
hospitality, that's what makes it really unique because it's ingrained in us. It's part of who we are as people. And I think it's wonderful thing for travelers coming in. They get to see it, and it's very different than places they come from. So I think that's a
Yeah,
secret. So I'm gonna get
yeah.
out.
Well, and I like, yeah, and I can speak to that firsthand because, as I mentioned before, we traveled through the desert in Syria, heading towards Palmyra, and it was literally bush bashing. There's no roads. We were using maps and whatnot, and we came across a Bedouin camp and asked for directions, and they invited us in, and we ended up camping next to them for the night. And it was exactly as you
Yeah,
mentioned. It was please, like we have this, and we shared likewise.
yeah.
And driving through Wadi Rum, we came across I think it was in Wadi Rum a Bedouin tribe as well. We just stopped for a quick little tea with them, but yeah, that hospitality is 100%
It's real, right?
what you
Like,
said. Well,
it's not.
yeah,
It's not just
yeah.
what we
Well, it's
say.
part
Yeah,
of the culture. It's
absolutely.
amazing. Um, so Wadi Rum is huge. It's beautiful for those who want a reference point. If anyone's seen the film The Martian, a lot of it was filmed in Wadi Rum. A lot of films have been
I think the newest
located
one
in Wadi Rum,
was
I believe.
Dune. Dune.
Yeah,
And
June was
I
done there
love the
as well.
movie itself, but it was also,
Yeah,
yeah, it
yeah,
was in Wadi Rum. It's
yeah.
breathtaking.
So it's just a beautiful expanse of desert and stunning scenery. Now, as I said, we drove through it, but I don't believe you can do that. You just can't drive off it anymore. It has to be
You can go,
organized.
yeah, well, yeah, it is organized. So you go
Yeah,
in with the local guides and Bedouins that have these cars, and it's all usually organized by either the visitor center in Wadi Rum or the camps that you book with to stay overnight, and they can organize
yeah,
lunches.
because
You
yeah.
can go on a four-wheel drive. You can rent ATVs or buggies,
Oh, okay.
horse rides, camel rides, going and seeing the
So,
petroglyphs. Some date back to 12,000 years ago.
wow.
It's just, yeah, there's so much to do in Wadi Rum, just nature. Even bird watching in Wadi Rum is big. Some great
Oh,
nature
okay.
out there, yeah.
And again, you just mentioned sort of quickly though that you can overnight in Wadi Rum at
Yeah,
like in a
absolutely.
Bedouin style camp.
Yeah, I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
You have options anywhere from two-star, rugged, you're sharing a bathroom with 15 other people, or all the way to you have your own bubble luxury tent, or they call them the bubble tent, the
Oh,
Martian
really?
tent. Yeah. And
Seriously?
you could stay in them. You have your own bathroom, hot water, everything. I mean, it's a whole.
So you're saying there are actually permanent
There
camps
are
within Wadi
permanent
Rum
camps
now?
out there. Some even have jacuzzis and a swimming pool and a
Oh,
bar.
no
Yeah,
way!
it's amazing. There's so
Wow.
many. There's a lot of demand for Wadi Rum in the last, I want to say, 5 to 6 years. It's been one of the hottest areas in Jordan for travelers. People want to
Wow, it's
explore
really
it.
developed. Yeah.
It's basically adults love it, kids love it. Everybody loves it. It's an amazing place. You take your shoes off and you're walking in the sand, and you're seeing the
Right.
stars at night. You're doing stargazing. You're eating amazing food. You're just hanging out. It's the serenity of nature over there. How small you feel when you're looking up at the sky and see all these stars. And if it's if the moon is not out that night, you could see even the line of the Milky Way. It's really gorgeous out there.
Yeah.
So Wadi
Yeah.
Rum, yeah, it is absolutely a big destination in Jordan right now.
You know. Okay. So again, as we mentioned, obviously Jordan's in the heart of the Middle East. The neighbours. I'm looking at the map. Saudi's one of your neighbours,
Saudi,
border
yeah,
neighbours,
it's
correct?
one
Yeah.
of my favorite.
Yeah, Saudi's there. Obviously, Egypt, Syria to the north, which unfortunately at the moment is not a place you should visit, unfortunately. Beautiful country, but just not at the moment. So, your sort of two immediate borders, well, Goa is about to open up Saudi Arabia, but we won't go into that just for now. But probably the two most popular country combinations when someone's looking at Jordan would be obviously Israel and or Egypt. So let's just start with Israel first. Getting to and from Israel obviously is a land, well, you could probably fly if you wanted to, but obviously land would be the most sense. Is crossing into Israel and back again problematic in any way?
No, yeah, you can go
No.
in Jordan,
Okay.
Israel. Yeah, it's easy.
Yeah. Okay. Because I know with uh, Israel they've got an E visa now, so there's no stamps in passport, which was again I'm talking historically here was back in the day an issue, but I know relations between Jordan and Israel are very
That's
good. So
that's it. That's ancient,
yeah,
Don.
yeah, yeah. Well, hey, I haven't been there for a while.
Yeah.
Um, so again, so that's obviously a very popular combination. Again, a lot of people mightn't realize that Jordan is home to a lot of holy sites as well as Israel. So that's an easy one. Um, Again, I'm looking at the map here. You don't actually. share a border with Egypt,
No,
do you?
but
No, not really.
you
No.
can make your way to Egypt either through ferry from Aqaba into Egypt. It's not
Yeah.
that far, or you can fly in from Amman to Cairo. There's plenty of
Right.
flights, daily flights.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to make your way from Cairo to Amman. I want to say, I've done it before. I think it's about a 35-minute, 40-minute flight maximum. So very
Okay. There you go.
easy. Yeah, very easy. Yeah, and people also combine Jordan sometimes with the UAE, so Dubai and Abu Dhabi. It's a very
Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
combination.
Yeah. Because there's so many flights now within the region as
Absolutely.
well. Yeah. So there are your big ones: Israel, Jordan, Egypt. The three of them combined, and or heading into the heart, I guess, the heart of the Middle East. What's the heart of the Middle East? Is it like the UAE area, or is it your area?
The heart of the Middle
Is
East.
there? Yeah. Is there such a thing? No, I'm just curious.
I
Geographically, it's probably somewhere in the middle of Saudi Arabia,
don't
but
know.
there's so much there. Yeah, just looking at them. I like maps and that type of stuff. Anyway, okay, so they're the big country combinations which GoAway has on our website if anyone's interested. Um, so I think that wraps it up. I think I've asked the usual questions. Is there anything, Omar, you'd like to touch on that we might not have spoken about, or anything? How about this? Is there anything new happening in Jordan from a tourism point of view, from a operational point of view, anything like that?
I'll tell you something. I think the most important pieces are the new hotels that we have in the country. We got St. Regis, Ritz Carlton, W Hotel, Fairmont. There are many more as well. Even a luxury collection down by the Red Sea in Aqaba, and a Hyatt Regency as well that's on the water. So great new properties, but also I wanted to touch base on local experiences off the beaten path.
Yeah,
So
please. Yeah.
so we did. It's been about 5 years now. It was in 2018 when we launched the Meaningful Travel Map with Tourism Cares, and it highlights social enterprises on a map that you can hover over and on your computer. And
Is that on? That's on your website,
that
Visit
is
Jordan.
on, and well, you can go directly to that on uh, golocalJordan.com. So
Go
golocalJordan.com
local, Jordan.
is the
Jordan.
meaningful
Okay.
travel maps. You can learn all about these things and get to really meet the Jordanians, um, buy Jordanian products, eat Jordanian food, and really go off the beaten path. So you are off the beaten path, yet you're not really that off because it's on the main. These enterprises exist on the main travel route that you would normally have. So you're venturing off just a little bit, and you're getting to experience amazing things. So I highly recommend that you look at that, and of course, book with Go Away.
Of course, goes without saying.
Yes.
Okay, so the map that Omar just mentioned, if I haven't already brought it up visually, we'll show that as an example as we're going through because that's really good to. Because again, I think some of my most memorable experiences anywhere in the world have been inadvertently running into locals or just some interaction which wasn't planned with the locals, and I've never had any bad ones. And um, so this is the same feel of seeing real Jordan, I guess, and also putting some money back into
Absolutely.
real Jordan as well. So excellent. We'll definitely highlight that when I do my edits here. So again, anything else, Omar, you'd like to touch on? A
Sure.
question I didn't ask at the beginning: are you based in the US or in
I
Canada?
am based in the Washington, D.C. area, yes.
And you look after US and Canadian
US,
markets, or
Canada,
just the
and
US?
Mexico. I have a team out
Okay,
in
there.
Canada and also in Mexico and in the US here with me in the office. But yeah, we're-
Okay, so if any of our agents want to reach out to you about information directly about Jordan, obviously we'd hope they speak to GoAway, but just in general, if they want to contact you, can you just give us your details,
sure.
please?
Omar at visitjordan.com, OMAR at VISITJORDAN.com. That's the
Okay,
best way to
so
reach me.
anyone who
Yeah.
needs, yeah, anyone wants to speak to Jordan, he'd be happy to speak to you, as would all of our destination specialists here at GoAway. Again, we have a great Middle Eastern team. Many of them, I won't say many, but we have quite a few from the Middle East themselves, so they know it as Omar does, first-hand experience. We can help with all your travel needs, and I'll put words in Omar's mouth here, but in Jordan, you can do everything from private guided through to coach touring. Um, yeah, so basically any level of and style of travel you want to do in Jordan can be accommodated by Goa and in turn facilitated by the people in Jordan themselves. If you have any inquiries, please reach out to us. And on that note, I'd like to thank Omar for his time today and everyone for listening in. And we will see you all next time. Thanks very much. There we go.
Is that good?
It is time to get comfortable. Please fasten your seat.
This is your captain speaking. We know you have a choice when attending webinars. We hope that you found today's webinar fun and informative. We look forward to welcoming you back to our next webinar. Thank you all very much for signing in today. We appreciate the time that you take to listen in. Keep an eye out for more of Goe's wide world of webinars, or Goe WWW. And as always, hit the like button, share the video, and of course subscribe and hit the alerts button to stay up to date on all the latest, updates. Goe can be found at all these favorite social media channels. Until next time,